For so many of us, Thursday night was sacred. The phone stopped ringing, dinner moved to the living room, and for half an hour, the Huxtables felt like the family next door. Maybe even the family we wished we had. That was 1984. This is 2026. Some of them are still here, still shining. One of them is now a memory we hold tight. The Cosby Show didn't just make us laugh. It taught a whole generation what a dinner table could look like, what a father's voice could sound like, what a mother's wisdom felt like. Today, we're going to find every face from that brownstone and see where life has taken them. Before we begin, I'd love to know one thing. Who did you watch The Cosby Show with? A parent? A sibling? Your grandmother on a worn-out couch? Tell me in the comments. Those small memories are the heart of this channel, and I read every single one. Now let's go back to that brownstone, one face at a time, starting with the Huxtable child you might have forgotten first, and the surprising life she built far from the spotlight. She was the Huxtable you might forget first. Not because she wasn't loved, but because Sondra was already away at Princeton when the show began, only coming home for holidays and big moments. And every time she walked through that brownstone door, the whole family lit up. Sabrina Beauf brought something rare to Sondra, the calm of an older sister who'd already figured a few things out. She was the firstborn who proved you could chase Ivy League dreams and still come home for Sunday dinner. For every oldest child watching, she was the version of grown-up that didn't feel scary. What most fans don't know is that Sabrina was Yale-trained before Cosby ever called. She earned her master's from the Yale School of Drama, then spent 8 seasons giving Sondra a quiet dignity few sitcom characters ever got. Today, at 68, she wears every year beautifully. She lives in upstate New York and rediscovers New York City on her own terms. She still acts on stage with the Shakespeare Theater Company in Washington, D.C., including her memorable performance as Catherine in The Taming of the Shrew. And here's the surprise. After Cosby, she studied interior design at UCLA and built a second career creating beautiful homes. She once said, "Designing a room feels just like the applause you get on opening night." Sondra, it turns out, kept building things long after the cameras stopped rolling. Picture this, a teenage girl sneaking around her parents, lip-syncing to a song called Baby, Baby, Baby with her best friends. Cliff and Clair walk in. The look on her face is the same look every middle child has worn at least once in their life. That was Tempestt Bledsoe as Vanessa, and she made the middle of the family feel less invisible. Vanessa was the daughter who tried so hard to be older, to be cooler, to be heard between a brilliant big sister and an adorable little one. For every kid stuck in the middle of a sibling pile, Vanessa was the mirror that finally said, "I see you." Tempestt was just 11 when she joined the cast in 1984. She grew up on that brownstone set, then walked away from Hollywood on her own terms. She earned a finance degree from New York University, then chose a life most child stars never get, a peaceful one. Today, at 52, she still carries the same spark we remember. She lives privately with her longtime partner, the actor Darryl M. Bell, who she met on The Cosby Show spin-off, A Different World. Their relationship has now lasted longer than most Hollywood marriages. In 2023, she stepped back into the spotlight just briefly to co-host the Prime Video Halloween special, Make Me Scream, alongside Darryl. Vanessa grew up, and then she chose peace. Both of those things, it turns out, are something to celebrate. And there are still so many faces from that brownstone we haven't gotten to yet, including the smallest one, who made history before she could even ride a bike. Here's a story most fans never knew. Before Joseph C. Phillips played Martin, the Navy lieutenant who married Denise, he had already been on the show. Years earlier, he played a guy named Daryl who took Sondra on a single date. Cosby liked him so much that he brought him back as someone entirely new. As Martin, Joseph gave a generation a portrait of a good stepfather, patient, dignified, choosing love before he had to. Today, at 64, he radiates the same warmth decades later. He still acts in guest roles, recently appearing on Good Trouble and CSI Vegas. The man who once played the steady soldier is, by all accounts, still steady. If you've seen The Cosby Show, you've seen this moment. A tiny girl in pigtails standing on a coffee table, belting "baby" into a microphone, while her whole family pretends to be a Ray Charles. Tribute act. That little voice, that tiny fist in the air. 40 years later, it's still the most joyful thing on television. That was Keshia Knight Pulliam, and she was just 5 years old when she became Rudy. For an entire generation, Rudy was the family's youngest, the one who brought joy by simply existing, the one who reminded us what it felt like to be small and adored, surrounded by people who would do anything to protect us. Here's something that still feels impossible. At just 6 years old, Keshia became the youngest performer in history to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy. 6 years old. Today, at 47, time has only deepened her elegance. She married actor Brad James in 2021 and welcomed her son Knight in April 2023, her second child. And she's never really stopped working. For nearly 2 decades now, she's been a star on Tyler Perry's House of Pain, currently in its 12th season. The little girl on the coffee table grew up, and she never stopped singing. In 2018, a photograph went viral that the world wasn't ready for. It showed a man in a Trader Joe's apron bagging groceries for customers in New Jersey. The man was Geoffrey Owens, and once people recognized him, the internet did something cruel. They tried to shame him. What happened next changed how a whole generation thought about work and dignity. Geoffrey came on Good Morning America and said something that has stayed with people ever since. "No one should feel sorry for me. I've had a great life. I've had a career most actors would die for." Tyler Perry called within days. Nicki Minaj sent a check for $25,000, which Geoffrey donated to charity. He went back to acting on his own terms. But here's what most fans forget. Long before any of that, Geoffrey gave us Elvin, the Navy man who married Sondra, the husband who came in with old-fashioned ideas about gender roles, then let love and Clair Huxtable's wisdom slowly reshape him into a better version of himself. Elvin was the reminder that good people can grow, that the most romantic thing in the world is the willingness to change. Today, at 65, Geoffrey is aging with incredible grace. He recently guest starred as Dr. Clay Barrett, a cardiothoracic surgeon, in Season 2, Episode 13 of the Max medical drama The Pit, aired April 2nd, 2026. He also appeared on the CBS sitcom Papa's House, and his son Jordan has followed him into acting. If any of these stories are hitting you the way they're hitting me, you might want to stay close for what's coming. There are still some of the most familiar faces from that brownstone ahead, and one of them is going to ask something gentle of all of us. We're halfway through the Huxtables now, and the next face is the smallest one of all, the toddler that Bill Cosby created an entire role for, just so he could keep her on set. It was 1989, and a 3-year-old girl walked into an audition for a Bill Cosby movie called Ghost Dad. She didn't get the part. She was too small, too young. But Cosby was so charmed by her that he refused to let her go. He went back to his show, wrote a brand new character into the family, and called her Olivia. That little girl was Raven-Symoné, and in just 2 seasons, she stole every scene she walked into. For the late seasons of The Cosby Show, Olivia was the family's living sunshine. She was the reminder that love multiplies when families grow, that step-families, blended families, chosen families are all the real thing. For every kid in a non-traditional household, Olivia made it feel like home. Today, at 40, Raven looks untouched by the years. She just celebrated her 40th birthday in December with her old That's So Raven co-stars. After 6 seasons playing Raven Baxter on Disney's Raven's Home, she signed a new, multi-year overall deal with Disney to keep producing and directing. She's been married to Miranda Madej since 2020, and she still has one of the most recognizable laughs on television. The toddler Cosby couldn't say goodbye to grew up to become one of the biggest child stars in TV history. For a generation of teenage girls, Denise Huxtable wasn't just a character. She was permission. Permission to dress weird, permission to think your own thoughts, permission to take a winding road instead of a straight one. If you ever wore something your mother didn't understand, you have Denise to thank. Lisa Bonet brought a kind of softness to the show that nobody else on television had at the time. Denise was the daughter who showed that art, individuality, and gentleness were not weaknesses. They were a way to live. For every young person who felt out of step with the world, she was the older sister who said the world would catch up eventually. The famous moment most people remember is the Gordon Gartrell shirt. Denise sewing Theo a homemade designer knockoff for his big school dance, the sleeves uneven, the buttons crooked, but made entirely with love. That single scene became one of the most quoted images of 80s television. Today, at 58, Lisa is more striking now than ever. She has stepped almost entirely away from acting and lives privately. Her marriage to Jason Momoa officially ended in early 2024, and she now spends her time on family and stillness. But here's the most beautiful part of her story. Her daughter is Zoe Kravitz, the same Zoe Kravitz who starred in the Hulu series remake of High Fidelity, the same film her mother starred in 20 years earlier. A torch passed from one quietly powerful woman to another, in the most natural way a torch can ever be passed. And then there was the man at the head of the table, Dr. Cliff Huxtable. For 8 seasons, Cliff was the dad of America's living rooms, the father who cooked breakfast in a sweater that should not have worked, but somehow always did. The father who turned every life lesson into a comedy routine, and every comedy routine into a life lesson. Cliff was patient when fathers on TV were strict. He was silly when fathers on TV were stiff. He made being a dad look like the best job in the world. For one shining era of television, he sat at that table and the whole country pulled up a chair. But there is one face we have saved for last. The mother of that brownstone. The one who, even now in 2026, refuses to slow down, and just did something that stopped the entire theater world. She walks onto a stage. The lights dim. The audience leans in. And for a moment, you remember the woman who once walked across a Brooklyn living room in a silk robe, telling Cliff she was going to bed, daring him to follow. That woman is Phylicia Rashad, and 40 years after she first stepped into Clair Huxtable's heels, she is somehow more powerful than ever. Clair was the woman an entire generation wished was their mother. Brilliant, beautiful. A working lawyer who could go from courtroom to kitchen without losing 1 ounce of poise. The mother who could put a grown man in his place with a single raised eyebrow. The wife who knew exactly how loved she was and let everyone see it. For every girl watching, Clair was proof that you could have everything and still feel like yourself. Phylicia was 36 years old when she walked into that brownstone. Today, at 77, she carries her story in every line, and she has not stopped. She has not slowed down. She has done the opposite. In 2025, she made her Broadway directorial debut with the play Purpose. The production won the 2025 Tony Award for Outstanding Broadway Play. With her 2 previous acting Tonys, this directorial triumph further cemented her place as one of the most decorated Black women in American theater. This year, in May 2026, she will give the commencement address at Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama, on May 8th. 40 years, 3 Tonys, a whole new chapter still being written. The mother of that brownstone never went anywhere. She just kept rising. And it was Phylicia herself, last year at the 2025 Emmys, who stepped to the microphone to introduce a tribute none of us were ready for. The tribute to her on-screen son. Malcolm-Jamal Warner gave us Theo, the boy who didn't always have the answers, but always had a heart. The kid we watched figure out money with a stack of Monopoly bills. The teenager who taught a generation of viewers what dyslexia was, in an episode that mattered more than anyone realized at the time. He auditioned on the very last day of NBC's nationwide search. A 5'5", 13-year-old reading for a part written for a 6', 15-year-old. He got it anyway. That was the kind of story he was born for. He left us in the summer of 2025 at 54. He left behind a wife and a young daughter. He also left behind a Grammy he won for spoken word, a poetry album the world is only now discovering, and 40 years of being the brother millions of us wished we had. Theo never really left that brownstone. He's right where he always was, sitting at the table, learning, growing, making us laugh. The Cosby Show was never really about a show. It was about a Thursday night, a family on a screen, and the small people we used to be when we first met them. The piano riff is still playing somewhere. Cliff is still dancing in his sweater. Clair is still rising. And Theo is still right there at the table, exactly where he belongs. So let me ask you one last thing. When you think of the Huxtables, who do you picture sitting next to you on that couch? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. There are more Thursday nights waiting on this channel. More faces, more songs, more living rooms we used to know. Until the next memory finds us, take care of this one.